Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to another edition of Stars, Stripes, and Anfield Nights. With me today, I have Toby and Brandon. Start with Toby. Toby, how you doing?
Hey y'all, I'm doing pretty well. We're in for a great show tonight. Got some interesting topics to talk about as well. Should mention here in Texas, it's freaking cold. By definition for us Texans, cold means gusting winds and possibility of snow on Thursday and Friday. So woohoo. How are y'all doing today?
I'm near the wildfires in Los Angeles, but fingers crossed they don't blow on my way. Thoughts and prayers out for those people because it's definitely not fun to deal with. But Brandon, I'm imagining you're in Toby's boat in terms of coldness, but how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing wonderful. The reason I'm doing a double today is because I can't go outside because there's like a foot and a half of snow out there, and I'm just not dealing with it. So it's Ohio weather, so it's going to be like 70 degrees later this week or something stupid, and it won't all be gone. But no, I got to take the extra day off yesterday, which is always great for me. So I'm happy to not have to work for 3 days here. Nice little 3 day weekend to start the year off.
100%. That's good vibes, Brandon, and definitely appreciate you joining us tonight. We'll keep it in America for now because first topic of the night, which I'm pretty sure not many people are stoked about, but get in the comments if you disagree. But the Elon Musk rumors for Liverpool, if you don't know what happened, essentially a few days ago, the news broke in like a British tabloid, and trying to find the best way to word the credibility of this tabloid. In essence, it's a titty magazine. So I'm not sure what you want to use for um, your own wording for that, but that is essentially the source that broke that Elon Musk was interested in buying Liverpool, and it kind of just blew up from there. Like now we have Sky Sports commenting on this Elon Musk interest in Liverpool. The fuel was like added to the fire with Elon Musk's dad on a radio talk show. He got asked the question because by then it already became like news that Elon Musk was interested in buying Liverpool. And his dad didn't really do anything to bat down the rumors. He was basically like, "Oh, he's interested." It's like that doesn't mean he's going to buy the club. But so as you can imagine, that blew some more flames on the fire, brought it up, and then the Times was saying that there's been no contact between the Tesla founder and Liverpool's American owners. Insiders insist there's no desire to have any such discussions. As a result of radio interview, they claim to not be taken seriously. So apparently, Liverpool's not taking it seriously, but the entire Liverpool kind of news media, soccer, Sky Sports reporting on this interest of Elon Musk. So, Toby, I'll start with you. What do you think about this Elon Musk ties to Liverpool? Like, do you think he'd be interested or that it would be good for football in general?
Yeah, so I couldn't believe it when I first heard it. So this is very interesting story. Okay. Shout out to you, Mohammed. Thank you for your comment. And I don't know how to pronounce this one, Biku. Thank you for your comment as well. Um, but yeah, I didn't believe it when it first came out. I still have a hard time believing that it's even a story, to be honest with you. I think this is just somebody wanting to get people talking, and I can totally see that. It's a little I'm gonna put quotation marks around fun um conversation. It's just something to for shits and giggles, basically. As far as, like, Elon being interested, I don't see why not, why he shouldn't be, but does that mean he's gonna buy it? Still buy Liverpool? Going back to what his father said? No, it doesn't mean he will. I do find it very interesting how another story like this has come out. I believe not too long ago, we had a story about, I don't remember what company, but a Saudi Arabia company wanting to buy Liverpool. So I do find it interesting that this story continues going on, so it does make me question, is Liverpool really up for sale, or is this just somebody just trying to get people like clickbait basically? Um, I know in our group chat, a lot of people were not a big fan of hearing about this. I'm gonna stray away from that for sure. Definitely because you know Elon, the kind of reputation he has, and who he's associated with. But yeah, I totally understand why people are not. They do not like this story, and of course, there's some who do. If you're on that boat, go ahead and comment. If you're not, go ahead and comment as well and say why. I'm interested in hearing what y'all have to say. Back to you, Drew.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting situation because, like what you pointed out with the interest from Saudi Arabia, I don't know if it was Qatar or Saudi Arabia, whatever country it was interested in buying Liverpool in the past summer. But it is an interesting time in the club. As you can see, Mohammed is definitely Elon Musk. Please buy to Liverpool. I'm going to tie this in with Boomerang. And thank you everyone for who's commenting. Please get your comments in because we'll bring them up. I'll tie this into the Elon Musk rumors because do you feel like Boomerang asks, do you feel we can maintain top level club status with FSG? We've done 3 transfer windows with 0 spend. I think the rumors getting some juice, Brandon, because of the frustration of Fenway Sports Group and how they seem to be pretty stingy with the transfers over recent years. It's something we've seen happen before with the center back crisis, and there's the midfield legs going. It seems like they're a little bit more reactive in the transfer window than proactive, and understandably, a lot of supporters are upset with that. You see the Trent and Virgil and Mo contract situation, which we'll touch on later. But how do you feel like that? Uh, how do you feel about FSG and their ownership in regards to these links to Elon Musk? Do you think it's the time where a billionaire ownership would be needed to take us to the next level? Is Musk that kind of a billionaire owner?
I put zero credence in the reports. I've also put zero credence in Elon Musk. So, like, of anybody in the world, like, if he wanted to own a football club, Liverpool is probably the worst club for him to own because he's not a people person. He doesn't understand people, and Liverpool is all about the people. And as much as you can hate on FSG, anytime FSG has done stuff wrong, they do backtrack, they do apologize. That's not what Elon does. He just kind of, this is his idea, and he's just going to move forward and do that. So if he decided to, he wants to did what he did with Tesla, where he buys the rights to call himself the founder of Liverpool. We'll just have to deal with the fact that Elon Musk founded Liverpool, and it's going to be in the history books or however he's going to write his own history. Like FSG and the spin stuff, we also have to think about how we were in Europa League for that one season, how much that throws off PSR and like making sure we're up against like financial fair play. Like the zero spend is a little misleading, I think, there, just because of how much we also put into last summer. Like when we put, say, 3 windows, it's winter windows, which usually are not super busy. And then obviously this summer, we're showing right now how much the squad was actually very, very good. I do think we probably should have spent a little bit more money, maybe on a left center back. That's probably the big glaring hole, was another center back or somebody who can play on the left side and also still play center back as well. That's probably the big glaring hole. But at the same time, we're top of the league in both Europe and the Premier League. If we win our game in hand, we're 8 points clear. Like, it's to kind of be mad at FSG for delivering a title and then right now looking like we're going to be delivering probably a second one doesn't seem super fair. I know they have their issues. They definitely have their issues. Like the Super League still kind of eats at my stomach sometimes how they wanted to get in on that and then weren't the first ones to pull out. That still bothers me to this day. But I think if what is the next level for the club? I know we can say we compete every single year, but Man City competes every single year, and we can see what shit they're in right now in terms of their financials and what could be going on with them in the coming months and years. Barcelona is falling apart because of how bad they mismanage money. Just because you have the money doesn't mean it's going to be spent well. Like you could be a Malaga situation where Elon comes in, buys the club, and then gets bored and decides just to not care about the club, and it just completely goes to shit. So, I mean, to have a club that wants to maintain its ability to operate year in year out and spend within its means and continue to grow year on year, like it's a good place because it's very volatile in the market in terms, especially when you start dealing with the billionaires and how easily they can just get bored by something and not care as much, or just not understand the people of Liverpool. And that's ultimately what Liverpool Football Club is the fans that live on Merseyside. Those are the most important fans. And if they don't understand them, like it'll quickly turn into a very bad situation. You see what happened with Man United and the Glazers. Like we're in a good situation. We're not in the greatest situation, but the way the current football market is, like we are dealing with some teams that are outright cheating. Like we just have to always think about that.
Yeah, I tend to lean on your side of it, Brandon, where I think FSG gets the right stick in terms of transfers, but they've done a lot of good for the club. I think the stat is if you change 4 Jurgen Klopp results, adds 2 more Premier Leagues, 2 more Champions Leagues to his tally as Liverpool manager. And as you said, you look at Man United, you look at even Chelsea when they first happened. They're settling down now, but we'll see what their financial situation's like moving forward. But yeah, it's not a grass is always greener scenario, as it can be easily thought. I just wanted to look at Boomerang and Olivier's responses. It's lovely to have a romantic ideology, and I'm Scout, so I want us to be the beautiful example of football. But the reality is we'll be left behind and end up being the wonderful Preston North End. The romance is over. We're losing Virgil and the 2 best players we've had in the last decade. Can you imagine happening at Chelsea, City, or even United? I think what's interesting with all the clubs that you mentioned is that none of them are doing great right now, minus Chelsea. And Chelsea had to go through a lot of chaos to get to where they are now. They have a lot of long contracts. We're going to see if they're going to be able to spend moving forward. But I think Brandon said we. Sorry, Brandon.
I was going to say they're also having some financial fair play issues as well. Maybe from Abramovich's era, but they're still doing that. And I know he says Villa and Spurs spent more, but Villa had to get rid of Douglas Luiz this past season because of where they're at financial fair play wise. Like they had to get rid of probably their best player to comply with financial fair play. Like I know, like the Europa League it's a fair thing because of the money you expect to come in. It becomes much different when it comes to your financial fair play. I'm not that well versed. I know Steven can probably give you a 10-hour lecture on exactly how it all works if you listen to him during the day. But yeah, like Villa has to sell players. Spurs, but I think just spent big. I don't think they've been spending big year after year. Like we invest when we need to invest. It feels like obviously sometimes it's a little too late. I will agree with that, but like Villa is up against it as well, and they have to get rid of players, have to sell off young kids all the time.
No, agree with you, Brandon. And like I think Man U is the perfect example of how a club can be poorly run, even with the rich owners. Like as you said, I think the rumors out today is that they're going to have to sell like Kobe Mainu and Garnacho to balance out their financials. So they got a lot of work to do. The question, just to continue with Boomerang, is do you feel SFG care about the club? I honestly don't know. I honestly don't think John Henry cares about Liverpool in terms of like the people, the club, the supporters. I think he cares about his legacy and his like reputation as a businessman. But I think that can work with the right people, like in finding the Klopps, in finding the slot, and finding the right people to manage the club. Because I'm not putting my faith in a businessman to care about everything, but if they care about making it a good business and they've shown they've made the right decisions, like Brandon said, they backtracked on the ticket sales. The Super League's really salty. Definitely agree with that. But when you look at the other examples out there, I think FSG can pair really well. But Toby, I want to bring up Olivier's comment here. Elon Musk would do to Liverpool what Radcliffe is doing to United times 1,000. Does not have the temperament to be sports owner. This will never happen. We'll have the final say on Elon Musk before shifting over to the contract situation. But just building on that, do you think Elon Musk would make a good football owner, or do you think it'd be just absolute chaos and media day? I know you touched on before that nowhere you don't think he'd want to be a football owner, but rather bring it into that. Do you think billionaires are a good addition to the footballing world as owners.
So I know FSG gets a lot of crap for this, but I mean, they have a system in place. They have people that do certain roles right, and in terms of analytics, scouting, whatever, And so, like, they have a system in place, and I like to believe that system works. I know we haven't won a lot of trophies, but we still have under FSG. So there's always that to fall back on. FSG, they have a very strenuous, and just everything I've read about, like how they run the team from like scouting to who they sign, and like there's a very strict criteria, or not even very strict, but just a strict criteria, and they it's very analytical, very detailed. So that's to keep that in mind as well. As far as Elon goes, like sure he's smart, but doesn't mean that he could run a sports team. I'm not sure if he could do what FSG does. I mean, like yeah, he might have a lot of money, but I think the reason why FSG doesn't spend a lot of money is because of the system that they have in place. And dare I say, like I said, I like to believe that system works. I mean, we don't see a lot of bad signings. I mean, take that with a grain of salt. I mean, but we don't overspend on players that we don't need. So that's my take.
Yeah, it's they're definitely very conservative in that regards, but as Brandon was saying earlier about the rebuild that was done in the midfield, it was maybe a season too late, but it set up slot really well for being first in the Premier League and first in the Champions League standings with the semifinal against Tottenham tomorrow. So there's definitely a lot of good, but still always critique and pressure to make sure that they are doing what's right. It's going to be explainable. Cough, cough, Nunez from Antonio's Torby. Yeah, that might be one that doesn't work out. Fingers crossed, not. But I also think it's been more of a Klopp signing or Pep Linders than necessarily the FSG model. But Brandon, we'll move on to still, I guess it's in the FSG umbrella, but some positive updates for Trent, Virgil, and Salah in terms of contracts. So Fabrizio Romano, he's a sports, I don't necessarily call journalist, but insider, pretty much has his thumb on most of the contract situations across Europe. His latest update on the contract situation is Trent Alexander-Arnold has yet to be given any indication that he wants to leave the club. We'll put a pin in that. Liverpool have been confident of reaching a full agreement with Mohamed Salah, who is giving full priority to Liverpool. Talks are ongoing, but so far no major progress has been made. A little waffling there. And then Liverpool have been confident in reaching an agreement with Van Dijk over a new deal, but no breakthrough yet. His priority is Liverpool. So it seems that pretty much same news coming out lately. That Virgil and Mo want to be at Liverpool, that they're working on making the agreement right, but no significant progress or no final progress made towards making it happen, but that's the priority for both their players. Trent's he hasn't indicated that he wants to leave the club yet. I'll ask you, how confident are you that Virgil and Mo stay versus Trent?
I'm most confident in Virgil. I think that's the one that if you say only one gets done, which one is it? I think Virgil's the one I'm most confident in getting done. I don't see a downside of signing Virgil up for a few more years. He's such a Rolls Royce that he's going to be very good at this level, probably for at least 2 more years, maybe 3 more years. And I don't think his decline is going to be falling off a cliff. I think it's going to be like a gradual one at a certain point. But I mean, he's immense. I think Mo will get done. The numbers there are kind of tough. Like I know after his bonuses and all that fun stuff, like $1 million a week, like pounds or whatever the fake money they use over there is. And then so like that's a huge part of. I think it's like 10 plus 10% of our overall budget is like our team budget is Mo or something silly. I'm most confident in Verge getting done. I'm the least confident in Trent getting done. But at the same time, the way he played over the weekend, who at this point, who cares? I don't think he'll just be a free agent in the summer because I don't think Madrid would want him after that performance. So I don't know, but I think we got a ways to go still. I think there's a lot of stuff to iron out, and do we want to invest that much in that age? I know some people were talking about running the contracts down, how it shouldn't have happened, but it was such a tricky situation. Like there was a stream we did last week for like 2 hours or some ungodly long time, where Dan and Steven went into the whole thing and they really like detail broke it down. It's FSG were kind of caught in a rock and a hard place with the timing of Klopp's leaving, because if you're Virgil and you're Mo and you're getting your last big contract, do you want to commit to a project you don't even know if Slot's going to be up for the job? Do you know if he's going to be good enough? Then have Edwards come in. Edwards is a little bit more ruthless. He doesn't seem all that interested in giving guys at their age the big contract, but I still see it as a win-win for the club. Because if you give Mo his big contract again, and he just falls off a cliff, you have the ammo in the gun to say, this is why we don't give out these contracts to other players who get to that age and want new contracts. Like, this is why we don't give out that extra year or go on the same money at that age. And then if he stays Mo Salah, then you still have Mo Salah on the team. So for me, it's a win-win for the club, no matter what happens. So even if he falls off a cliff or he turns into a 𝗜𝗚 or 𝗲𝗏 Ozil, it's just kind of, I think it's still good for the club overall. And I still think with Mo, Saudi Arabia will always be there. So even if he does go off a cliff, they will want him for a sum of money, because he is like obviously the biggest Islamic sports figure in the world, at least in my mind. I can't think of anybody else off the top of my head. So he's always going to have value for the club, some form of sell value, even if he comes half the player he is now, or probably like 10% of the player is, because half the player he is right now will still be an incredible player.
Yeah, definitely agree with you on that, Brendan. Brendan, do you remember what day the stream was when Steven and Dan broke down the financials? Because definitely get Boomerang and Antonio's. Definitely suggest taking a look back at the LFC Transfer Room YouTube page to look at some videos where they break down the numbers, because I think that is a really interesting when you do get that financial breakdown. Our expenditure, given the new AXA training center, like a lot of different financials go into it, and it seems like they've had very little wiggle room to operate in terms of how much they can spend in finance to I guess fall in adherence with financial fair play, and that's why you're seeing the likes of like Newcastle having to sell players, Man United having to sell players, Chelsea's probably going to have to sell players, but a lot of clubs are now starting to fall through those gaps and getting punished for it. Like Newcastle weren't able to buy anyone past window really, because they're in danger of breaking those rules. So I think there's a really interesting financial breakdown that Steven and Dan are really good at looking at those numbers. Worth checking in. But Toby, Olivier has 70%, Mo 50-50, and Trent's Uber is on the way. How are you feeling about the contract negotiations at this point for each of the players?
Yeah, so I do mostly agree with Brandon. I am most confident Virgil will resign. I think it'd be asinine if you let him walk. Salah, it might be a little tricky, but he has indicated that he wants to stay. So, usually when that happens, both sides can come together and reach a compromise. I imagine the numbers will be difficult. Trent, I'm growing less confident in. He Sunday's game, like he looked. How can I put this? Phrases. The expression on his face. He looked tired, and I'm not saying a person that's exhausted. He looked tired, like he has something on his mind, and it's weighing him down. And so, like, it's hard to say where he's at. It doesn't help that he hasn't given any reassurance that he wants to resign. And he's saying that he doesn't want any of this stuff playing out in the media, but here we are talking about it, right? But I know it's not his place to say anything to reassure the fans. And maybe perhaps him saying that I don't want this being played out in the media is kind of his way of saying, hey, reassuring the fans. But it would be 10 times better for him to say that, hey, I want to stay at Liverpool. And I mean, when you have players like Virgil and Mo implying that they want to stay at Liverpool, and he's not, it's not a good look, at least in my eyes. So it, I'm growing less and less confident that Trent will resign. But hey, I mean, anything can happen in sports, right? I cling on to the fact that nothing is set in stone. I know we mentioned this a couple times, but I did finish reading the My Story Stephen Gerrard biography, and one of the things that he talked about was the fact that the whole debacle was Chelsea and him interested in going there, and him deciphering the fact that he just wanted to play for Jose Mourinho, but Liverpool was basically his home. That was the big deciding factor. I mean, and he said that he would probably end up regret going to Chelsea if he did. So maybe Trent comes to this realization that, hey, Real Madrid's all glitz and glamour, right? You can win a lot of trophies there, but I am a Scouser, and Liverpool is my home. So maybe he comes to that realization as well. Only time will tell.
Yeah, it's I'll throw up some comments down here. Disinterested from Olivier. This Antonio's the way Trent played on Sunday speaks enough. Not only the bad performance, just the lack of passion, lack of fighting for the badge. That was really, for me, another good question of it. Even if he stays, Trent can never be captain after this. That for me is kind of like I just think he just comes off as very conflicted. Like earlier interviews, beat the drum with this one, but he flip flopped from interviews throughout this half of the season. Where one season he's saying that he want his dreams to become, or one interview he's talking about a dream to be Liverpool captain. Next, it's the Ballon d'Or. That trophies don't. That it's not all about trophies. Then next interview he talks about how he doesn't want to be known as the kid who won trophies. So it just seems like his head's being turned, and I don't know. Like I know one of his brothers is his manager or his agent, but just doesn't seem like he's like, does he want to stay? Does he want to go? Like, if this means more, which he's quoted about trophies, like, kind of spewed off all the Man City players, still in their heads that like this means more kind of comment than Trent does. That's where I'm like my grain of salt with FSG on the contract situation, aside from like the Klopp exit, is that with Trent or with Virgil and Mo, they seem to want to stay, and it's about getting it done. I think my opinion is like Toby and Brandon. I have more confidence in Virgil. I think Mo will get it done unless he's just set, wants more money. But that's for me the situation there versus Trent. It's like it's not like you know they're not offering him a contract or they don't want him to stay. If it does mean more, if he does want to play for the club, he has agency in deciding um, where he wants to play. So for me, that the performance against Sunday, Manchester United on Sunday, it was just feel bad for him that he's in this position, and I just hope he knows what he wants. That he's not just like I don't know what I want, because that's probably the worst position that he could be in, and it's got to get wrapped up quick. It's got to be settled in January. Either way, well, that's my thoughts on it. With that in mind, Brandon, two questions for you is: do you think the longer this goes on, the more it affects Trent's performances, or do you think Man United's performance will be awake? And do you think Robert Maguire's question here? What would be your reaction if he said he wanted to go? Brandon, you muted, by the way.
There we go. You can hear me, right? Okay,
Yep.
sorry. My mouse is garbage on this computer, and it wasn't letting me move to unmute myself. If he said he wanted to go right now, I would actually probably breathe a sigh of relief, because at least we'd have an answer. And like it's better to have an answer than have no answer and be left in limbo forever on this and wait until the final of the season, having those questions of whether he's going to perform or not. Is he going to be worried about putting in a tackle? Because at least we know, because I think his first few performances after saying he'd want to go would indicate how much he's going to give us the rest of the season. I think I'm hoping the performance Sunday is more of a blip, because obviously Trent has, he's been a little up and down in terms of his offensive play this year, but his defensive play has been actually much better this year compared to last year. I think he's actually been an outright. I don't think you can sit there and say he's a bad defender this year. You can say he's a good defender. Like, I thought he's been very good. I think it was the Brighton game whenever he got into he got chest up with somebody and ignited the whole crowd, and we turned the game around. Like, he was excellent defensively that game. So I don't think the effort is going to be completely gone for him. I think he'll always put it in. I still think he'll love Liverpool even if he leaves. Liverpool probably won't love him as much, but it's at the same time, I don't think he's going to not put in a tackle. I know you can sit there and look at the footage from this last weekend and use that to prove me wrong. Fair, but at the same time, sometimes whenever you're just not at it, you just can't get yourself going. It's just a complete confidence thing. He just seemed like he just had disinterest was the wrong, I think might be the wrong word. It just seemed like he was completely zapped of any confidence in doing anything out there and just was lost. He seemed very lost. And I don't know. It's just, it was, of all the performances, I think it's probably even worse than Moreno versus Sevilla in the Europa League final all those years ago, which is saying an absolute lot, because that was some game to watch back then, to watch somebody be so bad. But yeah, I think it's just because it's Alberto Moreno versus Trent. Trent, we know, usually if he's playing bad, still delivers a great ball. He wasn't even delivering great balls, so like on Sunday. So that's the most disappointing thing, was like he couldn't even find ways to contribute. It was just a bad performance. And like I said, I hope it's a wake up call. Hopefully with Bradley coming back, that pushes him, or maybe we don't even have to worry about it the rest of the way. If he ends up saying he wants to go and Bradley's like, okay, get out of my way, then I'm taking your spot. So
yeah, it's pretty. It was disheartening to see, the very least. And yeah, like you said, there wasn't even a pass you could cling on to. I think it was 0 for 6 for like his long balls on Sunday. But Toby, on that train, like Brandon, along the lines of we're going to be okay. Mentioned Bradley at the end. Situation being, players can agree a pre-contract agreement in January, so all three of them could be like, all right, we're going to join a different club, overseas club, at the end of the season, and that'd be that. Are you confident? Like, let's say that Trent leaves. Go back to Robert Maguire's question. What would be your reaction if he wants to go? Do you think if he came out and said he wants to go, if he signed the pre-contract agreement, or he said this is my last season at the club, do you trust Trent after Sunday's performance to turn it around, or do you think that if he wants to go, we need to get him out in January?
Yeah, so my reaction, kind of hard to say because it's something that weighs in my mind. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, just judging by the reactions we get every time we hear something regarding Trent in Real Madrid, everything's close and all that should tell you a lot of how we feel about it, and just says a lot. So I don't think I'd be too surprised. It would definitely suck, but like, I think Connor Bradley can step up for sure. I was reading an article, I want to say last Friday, about how Trent is getting the ball in terms of passing wise. He's getting the ball less than he has in previous years. Like, I believe like number 1 and 2 is between Virgil and 𝗜𝗚. So like, I think that's very telling as well. As far as like his contribution goes, man, I sure hope that this was just a bad game, and I want to believe it was just a bad game. I mean, we all have bad days, so Trent's allowed to have one. But if it continues on, it definitely does raise the question of does he even want to be here anymore? does he even want to play for Liverpool anymore? So there's that. And if that becomes the case, I do wonder. I mean, even if we're in the middle of a title race for both the Premier League and Champions League, I do wonder if FSG thinks about selling him. I mean, just if it becomes a continuation of things. I'm not saying sell him right now, no, but if it does continue on, I wonder if that just starts popping up their minds. Okay, maybe we should sell this guy. Maybe we should. I mean, hey, we do have Connor Bradley here. He's not bad. Put in a hell of a tackle against Martinez with Fernandez in like the first minute of his substitution. So I mean, yeah, that's all I gotta say.
Yeah, well, I think FSG have, 5 games left in January. It's either 5 or 6, maybe, left in January to see. That will transition us nicely into the Carabao Cup semifinal because we'll talk about potential lineups as well. So, Antonius, we'll address that in a slightly different way. We're not going to talk about Nottingham, but we will talk about Tottenham. So, I guess that could lead into, who you would start tomorrow versus the weekend if you'd save anyone. But just want to take a real quick moment as we pause in between topics to just thank you to everyone who's watching the stream tonight. We really do appreciate y'all joining in, getting your comments in. So, thank you for taking the time to watch. We really do appreciate it. So, Brandon, we're shifting on now to the Carabao Cup semifinal against Tottenham. If you don't know, today Arsenal lost 2-0 to Newcastle at home. Sorry, I laughed. If you're an Arsenal fan, you're not my favorite club. So it was enjoyable to see that kind of result. But knock on wood, Liverpool don't drop the ball tomorrow because that can always happen. We're playing Tottenham away at Tottenham. And we beat them 6-3 just the other week at their home stadium. So it just seems kind of like a deja vu moment for tomorrow's game. But definitely, cup match, anything can happen. Over first leg of 2 legs. Brandon, how do you think we approach this game tomorrow? Are you confident first and foremost, and are you resting any players with a big game against Nottingham Forest, the second place team in the Premier League? They're tied for second. How do you approach this Tottenham game tomorrow?
I think you still can rotate players. I think there's a few players who do need a nice rotation, like a little extra time. Just like Grav, like I know Slot talked about Grav over the weekend in his post-match press conference, which I can't remember who said it in the chat, but it was like, when you're dropping 10 out of 10s every week, when you drop a 7 out of 10, people think something's wrong. Because I thought he was just fine. I thought he was one of our better players, especially in the first half, which was not a good half at all. But I think we can rotate a little bit. Obviously, with the way this works, this semifinal works, the second leg isn't until the first week of February. So it's like month between legs, which by the time that comes around, you might have the way things are going for Ange right now at Spurs, we could have a new manager at Spurs when that game comes around. You might, I think they have quite a few players coming back from injury towards the end of January, so they might have a completely different team come the second leg. I think with all their injuries at the back, this is a game we really need to go for it and kind of really try to kill this tie off in the first game. I know it's away from home. I know we just went there and won 6-3, but obviously knockout kind of cup football's different than the league. Kind of can throw it out the window a little bit. But I think with all their injuries, we should be pretty confident to go there and get a result tomorrow and have that second game in our pocket. Maybe we don't have to bring everybody out, but I would rotate a little bit. I wanted to experiment more with the squad when I was thinking about the lineup, but Soboslai's still out, so I won't be able to experiment as much as I would want to. But I think we can. I don't think we have to go full guns blazing here. I think we could probably rest a couple players, rotate a couple players in who aren't seeing as much action because I think they deserve it. And then obviously we have Accrington Stanley at the weekend, so we can kind of get our players going for what's going to be a really big run of big away fixtures coming up in the league.
100%. And Toby, how are you feeling about the match tomorrow? As Brandon said, situation of Ange is precarious, but he's mentioning Brendan was mentioning on Slot's press conference, and one of the things that he mentioned there as well was that Tottenham scored 3 goals against us. Not many teams have done that this season, and they found, we had goals to give in that game, but you know, as shown against Man United, the first 3 chances that we had against them, McAllister, Gakpo, for me, I count Diaz as skied shot when Trent laid it off to him as another good chance that should have worked the keeper. If your finishing boots aren't on, a team like Tottenham can get at you, and it can be a situation that Arsenal experienced today where they hit the post, they couldn't get it in, and Newcastle capitalized. So Tottenham can get at us, they can score goals, but are you confident going into tomorrow's game, and how do you think we approach that game in terms of squad rotation, as Brandon said, with a lot of away fixtures in the Premier League coming up?
Yeah, so I do like our chances against Tottenham. I know the whole situation there and just kind of is not on good terms right now. It doesn't look very good. The way he's answering questions in interviews and getting aggressive. It doesn't look good over there, and that's one of the reasons why I think um Liverpool have a good chance in this game. Something like that can boil over into the locker room, and it doesn't send a good message to the players. I am very curious to see what Slot does at center back because I think um, um just by judging on Sunday's game, Ibu was not he did not look fully fit, and I do believe he's already said that, or Slot's already said that he is not going to be playing in this game, and rightfully so. I was surprised that he played the full 90 on Sunday. So I'm very curious to see what he does there. Um, I'm also curious to see like if we get to see Harvey Elliott in this game, even if it's like in the second half. I'm very curious to see where we see or if we'll see him and where we'll see him at, right? That's one thing. And also, who's going to be starting at the left wing? Gakpo's beginning to start a lot recently, and I have this theory about Gakpo showing up for these cup games, and he loves the cup game, so why not? But he has been starting a lot at the left wing, so I wonder if Slot thinks about it and decides to rotate him with Diaz or somebody else. It'll be a very interesting lineup. I'm kind of with Brandon here. I don't think you need to go full guns blazing, but you do. I would expect some rotation, not a whole lot. Shoot. And another thing, yeah, with Tottenham, yeah, they're a solid team. Tottenham can score goals. And they're a solid team. And that what makes them the difference between us. Yeah, what makes the difference between a bad team and a solid team is that a solid team can make things interesting. A bad team, more times than not, will not. So Tottenham, they can score goals. They can definitely make this an interesting game, and they could definitely pull off an upset for sure.
Yeah, I'm wary of that kind of getting the momentum early if they scored early goals and then Inch isn't going to ever pull back their high line. So I think that's always a threat. But going off what Tayo said in the comments, definitely confident over 2 legs. I think, as Brandon said earlier, the second leg's like the first week of February, so there's time. Time to prepare for the second leg if necessary. Like Brandon said, if we can kill this game in the first leg, a second leg at home, this is going to be huge. But as you said, Toby, with Gakpo, for me, I think Gakpo is going to get a rest on the bench, even though I agree with your theory of him just absolutely blitzing in the cups. I think because Nunez is suspended for the Forest game from yellow card accumulation, that Nunez is going to start. I think he'll either put Diaz on the wing or possibly Diaz up top and Nunez on the wing, or Jota even starting. Diaz and Gakpo rested. We'll see. But wanted to go and see an angry bunch of Liverpool players out redeem themselves. That's another great point there, Olivier. That's what I'm hoping to see as a reaction from the weekend. I want to see Chiesa. Please, yes, please hope Slot. I'd love him to start. He's probably not going to start, but I'd love him to get a good 30 minutes. just to get some minutes under his belt and hopefully see him do something. Let's see. Boomerang, I'll save your question on Trent for the end. But Brandon, you were talking about the rotations don't have to go full guns blazing. I'm going to press you on that in a little way. So who would you make changes in the squad from the normal starting 11? And one specific question, at least for Trent: do you start him right away? Do you start him in the Spurs game tomorrow, or do you put Bradley in?
That's been the biggest question for my starting 11 tomorrow, has been the right back, because I don't want to rush Bradley back into it if he's not ready to go. And then all of a sudden we do damage again, and then now we're in a situation where Trent's our only right back. And with all the situations going around him, you just never know what it's going to be like. So I'd like to have one. We don't have that much depth at center back either, so I don't want to have more injuries to defensive players. So that's been my biggest question. I think I'd probably start Bradley and try to get him 60 minutes. We don't have Gomez. That's always, I keep forgetting Gomez is not around either. And that keeps bothering me. But I would think in the midfield is where I'd probably change a little bit. I think Endo deserves a start. I think this is a great game for Endo to start. Like, I know we talked about how he's not the best slot player, but he is a captain of his country. He is a leader. He's a guy who gets his foot in. He's going to play. He seems perfect for this type of game. I think he would disrupt play very well for a very good offensive team in Spurs. I think this is the game you can start him. I think 𝗜𝗙𝗚 at the back. If you're not, I feel like this is also a game where if Slot's not going to trust 𝗜𝗚𝗚 to play this game, when will you ever trust him to play a game? Like, you need him. You've got to either learn to trust him or, I guess, get rid of him, because like it's time. You got to trust him a little bit. I mean, I know 𝗜𝗚𝗚 has been playing well. He seems like a complete shell of the player he was last year for us, but got to start rebuilding that confidence somewhere. I think this could be the game for him, or this needs to be the game for him. It's kind of put up or shut up for him. You know, this is the guy who's basically looked at Joel Matip's body and said, if he dies, he dies, and then stepped over him for a starting spot. So I need that guy to come back. So, and then my experiment was going to be put 𝗖𝗎 in the double pivot with an Endo, but with 𝗖𝗎 out, I think you can start Jones there. And I would start Elliott. I want to see Elliott get more game time. I think he was just injured at the wrong time. Like, it was just like a bad injury at the wrong time. That's kind of really stunted his progression with Slot, is that he just got hurt at the wrong time. And we're playing so well, don't change it up. And then I would like to start Diogo up top and put Darwin on the left, would be like my experimentation to see if we can get Darwin going, maybe putting him out wide. I mean, there's times he's done that and he's played well for us. I think if we're going to have to start trying to find ways to get Darwin going. I know we've been saying that for 2.5 years, but we've got to try some different stuff. It doesn't seem like it's going to work as a striker. Maybe out on the left-hand side, using his speed to kind of break down, because I know that wouldn't be, what's his name, Udogie? That'd be his side, but he's hurt. So, I mean, exploit their defensive issues with Darwin's pace, Diogo's finishing in the middle, and then obviously you got Mo on the right-hand side. So, I mean, that's where I think the starting lineup, that's what I would do if I was starting lineup, is Jones, Endo, Elliott, Darwin, Diogo, Mo up top. Left back, I think Robbo would be playing this one. And Kelleher.
That's fair. Yeah, I'm pretty much in complete agreement with you up and down the board, minus Bravo at left back. I think he might need a break in 𝗏𝗏𝗏. I don't expect 𝗏𝗏𝗏 to play full 90, but just to give Robertson a little bit of breather. But Toby, how would you approach it in terms of lineup? I know you talked about 𝗜𝗚𝗚 starting. Are there any other changes that you would make to the squad?
Yes, I want to give a shout out to Brandon, because I love this idea of putting Darwin at the left. I said it a while back. I would love to see Darwin play at the wing. I'm curious to see how that works. I mean, being a striker, or him being a striker, you know, he's not getting a whole lot of playing time, and when he does, I mean, he's not doing what we want from a striker. So I'm very curious to see like what he does at the wing position, if he were to get to play at the wing. As far as center backs, I'm interested in seeing what Slot does. I mean, like, I know in the last Carabao Cup game we had Endo play, I believe, play at center or was midfield. I don't know. I don't remember. But I'm curious to see if he'll do that again. With Kwanzaa, I do agree with what Brandon said, because eventually, like, it's pretty obvious Slot does not trust Kwanzaa, and eventually he'll need to. We could get to a point in the season where we might need to rely on Kwanzaa, and so it's either now or never. And like Slot definitely needs to start putting some trust in Kwanzaa going forward. Let's see. I do think Tsimikas will start at the left. I don't know if he'll get the full 90, but I can totally see him starting at the left. And then I do have Bradley at the right. I don't think he'll play the full game. I think we'll see about 60 minutes, and then Trent will come on. Midfield, that is definitely interesting. Szoboszlai is not playing this one. So once again, with Endo, it all depends on where they put where Slot put Endo and what he does at the center back position. Does he start Virgil for this game, or does he want to give him the rest and have him have the pairing of Kwanzaa and Endo? That one I'm kind of on shaky ground with. I'm not too sure, but I do think we'll see Curtis Jones. Elliott, that was an interesting one. I'm not sure if Slot wants to start Salah for this game, but if he does start Salah, I imagine we'll see Elliott, and then what else? And as for the front three, I do think we could see Salah, Jota, and I don't know if Slot will want to experiment, but I do think he might play conservative and play Diaz right there at the left wing.
Yeah, it's definitely a game, as Brandon touched on earlier. If we can get this leg buried, or the semifinal tie buried in the first leg, I can't see Spurs having a huge upset match back at Anfield, especially if we have like a 2-goal lead. But we'll see. Knock on wood. Game tomorrow. And the last one I'll put is I would put Trent. I would start Trent tomorrow. I want him to come back after that Sunday's game and put up a performance, because I think the Sunday game should have been his moment to be like, this is why I deserve the money, or this is why I'm moving to Real Madrid because I'm the best right back in the world. But when Dalot on the wing and Bruno Fernandes are tearing you up, it's not a good look, and I'd want to see a reaction. So that being said, I'm going to go through the comments real quick just to pull up any last questions. Do want to show some love for Trent Boomerang, obviously putting up a lot of strong defense for Trent. Reverse scenario, he's been with us since he's a kid, and the club have not moved mountains to keep him. How would you feel? For me, and I'll pass this on to you, Brandon, after, but for me, it's the rumors are that Liverpool have offered him a contract, the latest one being upwards of 300,000 a week. I think that's you're talking about Kevin De Bruyne wages for a right back. So I think if that is true, then the offer is there. For me, it's more, and Toby talked about this with Jared's situation, contract with Chelsea. Fans kind of turned on him, and there is a lot of that upset with Trent, but I think he should understand that is if you are one of Liverpool's own, it's kind of like you are the representation of the city on the field. Everyone sees themselves in you, you're living their dream, and majority of those people are going to be like, I would never leave Liverpool. How could you do that? So that's something for me that he has to deal with. I don't know but that would be for me the sticking point for Trent. I don't know if it's FSG that are treating him poorly. I think 300 grand a week's more than fair, but I think the fans kind of turning on him could be hard for him to experience as a player. So as critical as it is, all the pressure on him, do feel bad that sports figures have to deal with that on a human level, but that does come with the job for me. But Brandon, how do you feel about that in terms of that kind of human scenario that Boomerang brought up? Your mic again, Brandon.
Can you get me?
We're good.
Okay. Must be something going on with my soundboard. I'm kind of with you, Drew. Like, we can't really 100% say that the club hasn't moved mountains. I mean, there's no evidence that I don't think there's any hard evidence that we offered the 300,000. That I know that was just a number that was thrown around over the weekend. But I mean, we probably won't know what was if he ends up going. We won't know exactly what really we tried to do to keep him until well after. Maybe might be years before we find out how much Liverpool either tried to or did not try to keep Trent if he ends up going. Um, I think one thing also to think about, like with Trent, is not just a Steven. He stays obviously with Gerrard when he was the local lad, ends up staying with the club, and how much of a legend he became. You also got to think of like Steve McManaman, because if you ever go back and watch those mid '90s teams, like I know everybody talks about Fowler, and the reason is because Fowler stayed with the club. McManaman was the better player, in my opinion, but nobody remembers that because of the way he left, and it's exactly what will happen to Trent. And he'll just become just another face back there that people will say, yeah, but he wasn't this player, he wasn't that player, because he's not showing the same passion for the club. Like it's tough. I know obviously Trent has dreams, aspirations. Obviously they feel like they've changed over the past couple of years. I think if I put my conspiracy hat on, I think this is a lot of manufactured stuff from him. I'm just putting conspiracy hat on here. Just the fact he signed, I think, a 4-year contract for his last contract, so it expires right when he turns 26. I think the more we might look into that, we might come up with more conspiracy theories that he was always planning to leave Liverpool for his prime. And then
Allison signed a 6-year at that same time too.
6, which is more normal for when his age and stuff like that. He argued for a 4-year. Like maybe there's more conspiracy theory in there. I don't know. Maybe Elon Musk wanting to buy the club's opening conspiracy theories in my head. So no, I will always love Trent. I always have a soft spot. I always have a great spot for him. I mean, he was incredible for years and years and years. He's still incredible. I mean, that ball he played to Mo in the Man City game he played to Mo, who played it to Gakpo for the goal. Like he still has that in his locker. It's still incredible to watch. And just because he may leave on a sour note doesn't mean none of those moments happened. But like I said, ultimately, we won't really know how far FSG went to keep him until maybe in the summer, but it might be years. It might be until he writes his memoir.
Yeah, 100%. And it's not like for me too, like you said, in the manner of you leave, I think it's sour note. But I think for me, in terms of situation, Coutinho was probably one I could see more hatred for because we weren't quite in the place to lose him. We didn't know we'd be fine without him, so to speak. But every player that has left, we've ultimately replaced or gone on to find it. And then players who do well, Suarez is the only one that comes to mind, who moved on to do bigger and better things. Sterling, arguably, but Connor Bradley, I think, is more than capable of filling the shoes, at least for the title charge. But last question of the night, Toby, and for those of you who are new to the channel, I do not ask what is your score prediction for a following game, because the 2 times that I have done that, Liverpool have lost to Nottingham Forest and they drew to Fulham. So I don't know why I did it for the Fulham match, because I had the bad feeling when I asked about the Nottingham match, but no more will that happen. Toby, who is your man of the match for tomorrow?
Always give me a good laugh, Drew, when it comes to score predictions. I think my man of the match is going to be Endo. I think the last game he played in the Carabao Cup was great, and the fact that he's not getting a whole lot of game time, I think he's going to want to go out there and make a statement and play the best game possible. I mean, I think every time he's gone on the pitch, he's done the best he can. He's been a true professional in his situation. I believe he was more of a Klopp player than Slot. So when Slot came in and he kind of got dropped in the pecking order, it must have sucked, but he's handled it very well. So I think that's all going to contribute to this game and in this series against Tottenham.
Yeah, he's been an absolute professional with how he's handled his role this season. Love his attitude. So I really love that shout, Toby. And Tayo chimed in with his. Sorry, I did not ask you in the chat, but please get your fan of the match predictions, not your score predictions. Apologies. Fast or rewind a couple minutes if you want to hear my reason for that. But your man of the match predictions, Tayo's Jota, and that is a hell of a good shout. I'm still 50-50 on whether or not he starts. If he does start, I'd be tempted to put him as man of the match as well. For some reason, Diaz came to mind. I'm gonna go with Luis Diaz. Watch him not start tomorrow, but Diaz for me is gonna be the man of the match tomorrow. But Brandon, bring us home. Who's your man of the match? Drum roll. Suspense, Brandon.
Okay. I'm really having trouble with this soundboard. I want to work on it after we get off here. I love the Endo shout. I love Endo. He's my player of the year. He's my Ballon d'Or every single year. I love the guy. I hope he does great tomorrow. I'm not going to give him the man of the match because I obviously want to change it up and spread the love. Harvey Elliott's going to be the man of the match. He's going to score a hat trick, so do with your score predictions what you will with that one. He won't score a hat trick, but he'll be involved in a hat trick of goals. How about that? That'd be my best way to say it. I think Harvey's going to do the job tomorrow. That's going to be my guy. I think nobody wants to perform more for Liverpool than I think Harvey does. He absolutely loves wearing the badge on his chest. He wants to perform. I think if he's given the start, he will grab it by the scruff of the neck. And I think this could be a moment where we can start seeing maybe a little bit more Harvey, some more different views as we move forward in terms of like what we can do at the 10, different looks. Teams have to prepare different ways because who are they going to start? 𝗖𝗜𝗍𝗜, Jones, or Elliott? What are we going to do? We don't know what to do because Liverpool's going to win the whole thing. The quadruple's on, lads. Get ready for it. It's going to be Liverpool's season all the way, even with what some people think is horrible ownership. As long as it's not Elon Musk, we'll all be good in the end. So that's my prediction is Harvey Elliott, man of the match.
Love it, Brandon. Way to bring us home on that one. Robert Maguire, Arsenal fans meltdown after tonight. All we need to do is keep a happy squad and the title should be ours. Might be a tall order with contract situations. Fingers crossed that gets sorted. But I agree. I think if Slot keeps a steady ship, we should be good. But one game at a time, as I'm sure the players and the cliche know. But just wanted to say, I only say this once a stream because first and foremost, hope everyone who's been watching has enjoyed the stream. But if you have, please leave a like, share, and subscribe. We really do appreciate it. But we really appreciate everyone who joined us tonight. Hope you had a good time. Hope we get to see a Liverpool win tomorrow, win at the weekend. Many wins to come. But thank you again for everyone watching.